Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Apollo's Odyssey. I'm your host, Apolla, and on tonight's show, I will be interviewing Ben Chasteen, and we're going to have a conversation about the global world syndicate and what it would be like if humanity moved past giving our power away to them, and what the future is as a human race if we move towards a spacefaring civilization. So we have a lot to get into tonight, and obviously Ben Chasteen is from Ben Solo, Rise TV, and Edge of Wonder. So this is going to be a really interesting show, and I'm really excited about it. Before I bring him on, I want to share my art with you all because that is how I fund myself and keep myself going. So if you'd like to keep me going, please check out my art. That is at www.shamanspears.com. I make uniquely handcrafted energy chilling devices, which I invented all myself. They have copper coils, crystals, magnets, and sand I collect from sacred places around the world down the insides. And they're basically like wands. They're like a mix between wands and spears. They're for channeling energy, basically just a way of amplifying your energy. Or you can go hiking with it. That's what I like to do. I'm always hiking with my spears. It's a lot of fun. Most pictures of me online are of me on a mountain with the spear. That's kind of how I like to roll. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to have your own spear and go on hikes with them, you can go to shamanspears.com. I have the Odyssey collection is still available. There's some still available. And I'm working on a new collection, which I'm really excited about. I should have those up by Cyber Monday. But this particular collection has all silver staves, and they're all painted with crop circles that have been found around the world. I also have Shaman Spears minis, which are kind of like a smaller version, kind of more wand size. But some of these spears range up to like 6 feet tall, so they're pretty awesome. Also, I have some feather headdresses for sale, which I created myself. And I believe in humans t-shirts with my Apollo's Odyssey show logo on the back. So, definitely check out my site. And I am in town now, so any orders that you may put in, I will ship out the next day. All right, so let's bring Ben on here. Hey Ben, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you doing, Apollo?
I'm good. I'm back in my studio. It's good to be here in LA. Kind of weird, like they are making me wear masks and show my papers out here. I'm not really used to that after being gone for a month. But, it is what it is.
So I do like Florida for that reason. You just don't even feel like there's anything going on, and then you go to other parts of the country, wherever LA, New York, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's right. Like everyone's like still wearing masks. I just feel like it's such a different planet down here sometimes, but it's nice. I definitely enjoy it. I mean, that was partly why I wanted to move to Florida, was because of that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's definitely a free state. Here, not so much. Kind of weird, I definitely wasn't used to that just walking around the last few days. They're like, "Hey, where's your papers? Why are you wearing a mask?" I'm like, "Ugh, my gosh." It was so weird. What happened to rock and roll? Like Hollywood used to be all about rock and roll and freedom, America. That's what it was like in the 70s, and I don't know what's going on now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what this would be like in the 70s. I mean, you have bands like um, Rage Against the Machine. That's I mean, their whole thing is like to protest the government, right? And then on their last, like now they're on tour and they're only playing in the places where the mandate is, and they're requiring all their fans to get the mandate or the vaccine. And it's like, look, I'm not really trying to be for or against it. Anyone can do what they want, but it's just super weird to me to see that this whole spectrum of things of like, wait a minute, you guys are like speaking out against like authority and everything else, and now you're just like, oh no, listen to authority, and it's just
Yeah, it was like,
it's kind of
what
weird.
happened to that? I don't understand. It was like, it was always like, oh, like, we're all against the system, we're against the man or whatever, when they're like literally just telling everyone to shut up and listen to the agendas now. I don't know at what point that changed, but you
I
know,
don't either.
Hollywood's feeling pretty pathetic to me at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you were telling me a lot too about what's going on in Hollywood, and I mean, I came here from New York, so it's like there's a lot going on in New York too, and it's just. I mean, I feel like this is kind of what we'll kind of get into today, but I feel like a lot of it stems from the media. And on both sides of the media, it's like you have the extreme on either side that's creating these narratives that is polarizing people even more. It's like including Fox News, and then you have like CNN on the other side, and it's 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 just gotten to the point where it's just like, man, if people just would turn off their TVs, it's probably a lot better for us overall.
But you know what I've noticed here in LA, just in my groups of friends, I mean, most people in LA are obviously more on one side, kind of going with the agendas, I guess I would say. And I definitely noticed at first they were all kind of like weirded out about, the things I would talk about, the things I would be coming out about. And over this past year, just from these agendas being pushed so hard, it's caused a lot of people around me out here to start asking questions and realizing like, hey, these agendas don't really make sense and this is getting kind of weird. Unfortunately, it may be at a point where it's a little late for that, but it's interesting to see. And I think the harder they push all these agendas, the more people wake up. So it really kind of has the opposite effect. And I've definitely noticed that here in LA, especially in the last few months since the mandates started passing more. So it's interesting to see.
Yeah, it really is, and I think this is causing people to really look at things in a different light. And again, it's like I'm not trying to be against the vaccine or anything, and it's not anything of what I've said. It's just like, don't push it on others. Like my mom, for example, is allergic. There's certain ingredients in vaccines that she's allergic to. She had one when she was younger, and she had a
Let's say
major reaction.
the
What?
word differently. Please
Oh,
say
oh,
the
I,
word
I
differently.
forgot. I
We're not
forgot.
on your platform, which, by the way, if you want freedom of speech, a freedom of speech platform, check out Rise TV. Little
Yeah.
commercial for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Anyway, the
But the
video was
Aftermath, everyone listening on Aftermath right now is totally okay on Aftermath, but unfortunately, it's also streaming to my YouTube. But
yeah.
to my Aftermath FM audience, by the way, if anyone's watching here on YouTube right now, this show is also streamed to Aftermath FM at this time every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, and it's a really incredible platform. It's a freedom of speech platform with a lot of amazing show hosts. So I definitely recommend downloading the app and checking that out. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. What
Oh
were you
no, no,
saying?
no. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll be a little bit more careful with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like, well, my mom is legit alert have has an allergic reaction to this, so like, she can't get it. So it's kind of like, well, what does she do in this case? And there's other people that I've talked to too who have allergic reactions, and it's kind of weird because there's this mandate, and then yet it's like, well, okay, what about the people who already have the antibodies? Like, I got checked, and I think I'm at like around 2,500 for the antibodies, which is what it's supposed to do. So, and then it's like a lot of these people don't like, it's hard for, and the crux of this is the mainstream media, and I think we're kind of seeing this playing out, and basically any topic that you want to talk about today, just look how the mainstream media on both sides are covering this, and it's so extreme that it's just causing people to be in a state of fear. And I feel like that's, from whatever perspective you're looking at it, whatever perspective you're looking at it from, it's like that's the root of this. And we have to, as human beings, we really have to like rise against this and push away the mainstream narrative and not give into the fear. And I think that's when things are going to change. You know, a lot of people from doing the show and everything, a lot of people ask us like, oh, when do you think we'll have disclosure? When do you think we'll be able to see like, you know, real life aliens coming down and everything else? And I think the answer really truly lies within ourselves. Are we ready as human beings? And I think that really the answer is no. It's like look at where we are in the state of things right now. We can't even agree collectively on anything. And you know, we can all point fingers at each other and what's going on, but you know, even with the media, it's like you start thinking about it and it's like, well, who's backing the media? What's there? You know, where's the funding coming from? Well, look at how they're reporting on different aspects. And I think, you know, whatever you want to call this global syndicate order thing, whatever that is, I think that, you know, again, it's kind of like this can be more of the crux of what's going on in the world. And for example, like we pay so much taxes. Our country, I mean, they just raised the, you know, the debt ceiling, and Biden's signing this $1 trillion debt thing, or you know, and it's kind of like, as citizens, wouldn't it be great to know like where our money is going? Like, can we find out? Like, I would love to find out, where is my taxpayer dollars going? Is it like funding some black project that's going to be used against Americans? You know, it's like, but these are things we were never going to know. But I think the point is, it's like, you know, everyone's like, oh, well, this doesn't work or that doesn't work, or we need to replace this. And I think what the heart of it is really the root of all of it is like really comes down to selfishness. And if you have people in government and in power who are more selfless and are acting more for the benefit of the human race, like we would make so many leaps and bounds going forward of like how fast we could come together. Like if we truly had leaders that cared and that weren't corrupt, like our world would change overnight. And you know, like, sorry, I'm going on. Did you want did you want to like
Yeah, I
interject
would
here?
love to jump into that.
Yeah.
So my presentation I go around giving is on solutions for humanity and at conferences for the past 4 years. And, the number one solution I have always had, or up until probably about 2 years ago when I reworded it, was eradicating the globalist cabal. I feel that once that is out of the way, then,
Uh,
things will be a lot different. It's like taking the
Totally.
foot off the neck of humanity. But,
Yeah.
I realized after giving the presentation that way a few times that eradicating sounds a little violent, and we don't want that. I don't want to promote that. I realize I don't want to promote it in that way. And I think I try to look at how do we solve the problem from the root of it instead of just getting rid of it like doctors do to their patients these days.
Yeah, it's true.
So I was really looking at this, and I did a lot of kind of research into it, and I realized that it's kind of this addiction people have to money is like really greed. It comes down to greed, and there's these certain people that are greedy, whether it's an addiction to money or power. I mean, really, they both go hand in hand. And there's these certain families that have just hoarded all this over, some of them for over centuries throughout their family lineage. Some of the other neighbors' gardens, if
Mhm.
everyone was living in a more self-sustaining kind of communities, that would be interesting to see. And I think maybe crypto could go along with that too. But I know all of this could be done in a right way and a wrong way. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, how could
Well,
we,
I
obviously it's an issue that these people have. How do we solve that at the root of the problem instead of just jailing these people and then having more rise up to that
right.
position?
Well, I think the heart of it, you know, if you there's certain African American tribes, for example, and same thing with the Native Americans, you know, when they were here, um, the they had a whole the whole village acted as one. It wasn't like, oh, I have my teepee, or I have my place here and you guys are over there and we're all doing our own thing. It was like the whole community cared for each other. Like the men would get together and hunt together as a group. The women would take care of the children. The children would go to different leaders of the group to be trained in their ways and everything else. And it was a very harmonious kind of thing. Um, as soon as like we value our independence here, as especially as Americans, but you think of like living in a big city and it's like, oh, it's so full of people, yet they always say it's like most lonely in a city. It's like you're surrounded by people, yet you feel the most alone because you don't have this connection like this anymore. We're just very, we live in our own bubbles, and it's really hard to get out of that. And we've been living in this way of life for so long that we don't even know how to really, the way that I truly believe that we're supposed to live is more in a community kind of setting where it's like, everyone gives into the community and helps the community as a whole. And I think but it's like, how do we get there? Well, again, it really comes from people in leadership that are willing to make sacrifices for the benefit of humanity. And it's very hard to find a leader that's, they can have good intentions coming in, and then you have like China coming and saying, hey, we're gonna like blackmail you or buy you out. And I think the blackmail is the rough part. That's really the aspect of how they're controlling so many officials here. I think it's more blackmail than it is even money. But I mean, this all goes kind of hand in hand. And everything on the news and on the TV keeps us distracted from what's going on over here. It's like, as soon as we start paying attention to what's going on over here, it's like, oh, hey, pay attention to the clown on TV over here, because that's important. Like, and then it's 24 hours news cycle of the same thing over and over again, and that's all we focus on. And then meanwhile, you have the politicians making all these laws over here that no one's really talking about, because everyone's talking about the clown on TV over here. So I think that's why I always come back to the media. I think the media really, it's a plague to the people. I really feel that way.
I wanted to touch on something you were saying a little earlier in your whole spiel you just gave now. And you mentioned how everyone in these cities, they all kind of live alone and all right up on each other, and is actually getting away from the community aspect of things, even though we're all kind of smashed together in these areas. And it really bothers me the way that the media, it's like, I think we can, a direction we can go with this is the whole family, the idea of family being eliminated in today's society or change. I think that really goes hand in hand with that. It's like, it's almost like everyone is pushed to live on their own in tiny apartments. You can't even, I mean, in these cities, it's almost impossible to get an apartment that's even big enough for a family. And it's like they make you feel like you should be in love with having a tiny little apartment. Like, oh, I love my coffin apartment, this is so great. It's like, no, it's not great. You live in a tiny little room and by yourself. And it's weird to me. It's like they're like pushing this, like, hey, get a little box and live in it and live by yourself. And who needs family anymore? Just go out and do drugs and whatever. And like, all they need is like cars and money. And it's like, that's what's pushed in all these like songs in the media, like all the songs on the radio. And it's interesting, why would they be pushing this? I mean, why are they trying to eliminate the family? I don't know, like the idea of the family, I guess. And why are they trying to push people to be alone in little boxes? Like, do you think there's a reason for that?
Oh, for sure. I think that the family unit is stands for, like, I guess you can almost like say traditional culture. right? It stands for like coming together, being together. People that are tend to be in a family are usually, staying in a family, are happy together, have kids, and are truly kind of, you ideally you kind of see them as being a little bit more spiritual, maybe religious, and they have those backgrounds, and they come together, and then they achieve things together as a family, and then those people tend to have friends that are kind of the same way. So, I think all of this can be a threat to this global establishment, I'll just say, where, when you like, for example, when Mao came in and brought his communist revolution, there was four things that he did: was destroy the family. That was one of the things he did. Destroy, like, the classes, the class system. And then the final thing that he did was destroy religion and traditional culture. It was like traditional culture, the teachings, and then religion as itself. And once you control and destroy people's faith and religion, then it's like you become their god. And that's what the CCP did to Chinese people. It's like, seriously, you have to register through the Communist Party of China what religion you are. And if it's something that they don't agree with, like, for example, like Falun Gong, or even parts of Christianity, they're like going really hard against the Uyghur people. If it's something they don't like, then they have grounds to come after you. But and people say, oh, well, you can practice Christianity in China, and that's like, yeah, you can, but you have to have the official Bible that is approved by the party. So a lot of the teachings of Jesus have been removed out of the Bible. They're like, most of the priests and the monks are all Communist Party members themselves. So their goal isn't really to teach the true religion. Their goal is to preserve the party, actually. So when you start thinking about it from this perspective, it's just kind of mind blowing. And traditionally, China has like 5,000 years of like culture and like Buddhism and Taoism and all these like Eastern philosophies and religions, and they were able to like become an atheist nation. And honestly, I kind of feel that that's what's being pushed over here. I mean, being in Miami, I've been talking to so many people from Venezuela and Cuba, and that left their country, that left communism to come over here. And all of them are telling me, like, this is the beginning of what we went through in our country. Like, the inflation was the very first thing that happened. So, they're all really, like, the people I'm talking to here are really worried, because they're like, this is like the beginnings of like communism, basically, like coming in, and the high tax rate that we have. I mean, that's also like a very communist agenda being pushed on us. Like, you have Biden saying, oh, like, tax the billionaires, and everyone's like, yeah, this is a great idea. Like, we'll just do the billionaires thing. But the problem is that the billionaires it's not like they have $1 billion in their bank account. It's all in real estate. It's in, like, stocks, cryptocurrency, or whatever it is. You can't tax that if they haven't like got any payouts or sold any property or anything else. So you're just taxing basically what they on their earnings for the most part. And a lot of that can be written off at the end of the day when if you're, you do your books right. So at the end of the day, who's the group of people that are going to be taxed the most is going to be the middle class. And that's what, like people from Venezuela and even my friends from China were like talking about. But yeah,
and that's how they keep people where they're at. They don't want people to be able to rise up and have more power. So it's like they're keeping people down. And it's in this time, it's interesting because I think we're stepping into this energy of being capable of being more co-creative. And I think it's interesting to see. And it's not just all of us individually stepping into our power, but all of us coming into our power together. That's what's going to come down to. And it's not really stepping into the power because it's been there all along. It's more of, I guess, waking up to it. And I think what it's really going to come down to is everyone kind of coming together. And, you know, we started out the show talking about eradicating the globalist cabal, or, you
I
know,
I didn't really mean
solving
the
it.
word. I didn't mean to use the word eradicate.
No,
If I
no,
said
I
that,
said that. You didn't
yeah, I
say
was like, I
that.
don't think
You
I
didn't.
said that. But
No, I
okay,
said that.
okay,
But
okay.
you said something like something about the global syndicate getting
Yeah.
around it. I don't know. But anyway, I think it'd be interesting to relate this to our civilization becoming a spacefaring civilization. A lot of people are saying that it doesn't make sense to them. I see a lot of people complain on Facebook and everything that it doesn't make sense to them that they're spending billions and billions of dollars to get out to outer space, these elites or these billionaires. And I mean, these guys like Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, I don't necessarily consider them elites. I mean, they're up there, but they're not the ones that are really running everything on this planet. But I see what they're doing, and there's like asteroids that can be mined. I mean, I talk about this on my show quite a bit, and Brooks
Yeah.
Agnew does a lot of work on this. But there's asteroids out there that can be mined that are worth 10 times the wealth of our planet and have energy resources on it that could power the entire planet for many, many, many years to come. So it's like, why, when it comes to this like new world order or like these stupid agendas, it's like, why do they think that they need to keep the planet below 500 million people when we can just go out, because like supposedly there's not enough resources for all of us on the planet, when we can just go off planet and start mining these asteroids? If we just went out and mined one of these asteroids, one of the ones that are like closest to us, I know there's one that they've been looking at, that if they mined it, they could have energy to power the entire planet for free. And also, it would be literally, the wealth from that would be enough wealth that every person on the planet would be able to have $1 billion if it was all split up evenly. So it's like, I think this is actually a really amazing thing, and I can see why these billionaires are trying to do this. I don't think it's just about commercial space travel. I think it's more than that. And
Yeah, I agree.
but I think it worries me because obviously there's these opportunities out there, but are they going to take this into their own hands and try to be in control of all this wealth, as opposed to giving it to everyone
Well,
on the planet and sharing it?
I think if you were to like talk to them, they would say, well, in that case, when you go out and buy milk, your carton of milk, instead of being $5, is going to be like $250,000. So
That's true.
that's what
True.
they would come back and say. You want to buy a house now, all of a sudden your $100,000 house is now $1 million or $1 billion house even. So that's their excuse. I think, like, kind of what I said earlier. I think it really comes down to being selfless and being selfish, like this push and pull against each other. It's like, well, from their perspective, I guess, yeah, this again, from their perspective, it's like the earth has too many people. Well, okay, there's a lot of things we can do to fix this. Like, for example, you brought up like energy, right? Like, so when Tesla invented his Tesla coil around like the 18, I think it was like late 1800s anyway, coming into 1850, I think it was like 18. Anyway, and then the guy who invented the battery, his name is Volt. I think it was around the 1800s. Basically, ever since the 1800s, every 10 years, there was a pretty major leap in energy. And then you have Tesla. Then coming into the 1900s, it was like the electricity started being more of a normal thing around, everywhere. And then in I think it was 1956, they invented. That's when nuclear power came out. Since 1956, we haven't had a single thing with any kind of energy, new power coming out. And it's like, wait a minute, how did we have this trend of every 10 years from like 1800 have some crazy mind-blowing invention with energy, and then all of a sudden it stops? And I think we can go back to Tesla. And he invented free energy. That was his whole thing, and he wanted to give away to everyone for free. And, it was like, it was shut down, obviously, because it would change our society way too much. And, we look at something like the sun. I mean, we have an abundant, never ending energy source as the sun that we still have not. I'm sure there's
And
ways
that's
of
that's
harnessing.
being a type one civilization. And so
Yeah.
I've been reading this book lately and really getting into that concept of the types of civilizations. And it's interesting because I mean they have three types that's like commonly known by scientists, but it's interesting that we as a human race haven't even achieved being a type 1 civilization yet, which is harvesting the power of the sun. Or no, that's harvesting the power of the planet. Type 2 is harvesting the power of the sun, and then type 3 is harvesting the power of the cosmos, I guess. And right, isn't that how is harvesting the power of the cosmos or the cosmic
Probably.
energy? um
It's like
so, and
dark
apparently, with each of these
matter.
types of civilizations, once you reach that, the physics, the basic physics will change. And it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around, but I've been reading this book. I actually just finished it called The Three Body Problem. It's actually a science fiction book, but it really explains these concepts very well. I definitely recommend anyone out there who's interested in that to read it because yeah, it was pretty mind blowing. But it's like we haven't even achieved being a type 1 civilization yet. I mean, that's just so
Yeah.
crazy to me. I
Yeah.
mean, imagine if we could harvest the power, the energy of the sun. And it's obviously possible. Like, I think
Yeah.
physicists already know that this is
For
possible.
sure. I mean,
And
they keep talking about fusion energy, and it's like, dude, I'm sure they've created fusion energy a long time ago. It's just that, if you have something self-sustaining, how are you going to market that? I mean, it would be like, buying things that never break ever. And it's like you buy it once, buy a computer that would last you for, 100 years. And it's like, it just doesn't happen because people have to make money somehow. So, I think it's the same issue with energy. I mean, we're still using the exact same energy to power our homes that our great grandparents used, probably even our great great grandparents used, if you really think about it. So it's just mind blowing to me. It's the same concept with planes. We are still flying in the same planes that our great grandparents used, yet we have quantum computers now that can like compute in other dimensions. Yet, you know,
you
but
know,
yet we're still flying in the same planes.
I wonder if what this is about, besides maybe it being like trying to keep people where they're at, but really the lead is doing on a whole different level with what they're doing. Maybe it's that, but also I'm wondering if it's the way that it needs to be rolled out. Like, is there a way where all this, like, they have all this technology and some of it maybe the way it could be used could actually be dangerous, and they're trying to figure out how to roll this out in a way, because also there's an aspect of the paradigm shift that humanity is going to go through if this is all rolled out. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine if you could get on a plane and go from New York to LA in 7 minutes, or from LA to Africa in a half hour. That would
Yeah.
completely change the entire
It would change
consciousness.
everything.
I mean,
Like you could seriously live wherever you want and work wherever you want. It's like, yeah, I live in LA, but I work in New York, It's
and
like,
and I think them rolling that out, that's also going to mean saying like basically we know like these free energy sources. Like they're going to have to roll out the free energy sources at the same time, which means that they can't really take money from the people as much anymore. Like, so I think there's a lot that goes with that. It would be like them admitting, like also admitting like maybe ET disclosure, like, yeah, we
yeah.
recovered these craft like back in the late 30s, early 40s, and we backwards engineered it decades ago, and we've been keeping it a secret this whole time. I mean, people are going to be upset about that.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I think what it really truly comes down to, I mean, it's kind of like free. I was just reading some of the comments, like Free Live Free Now says, just like zero crime rate, no need to police, judges, prisons. Now that will never be allowed to happen. as so many jobs rely on crime. And it's true. It's like, we do have this industrial prison complex that are privately owned prisons, and we have hospitals that are privately owned too. So if you have a privately owned business such as these, you're going to want to stay in business. You either need people in jail to make money, or you need people to go to the hospital to make money. So, it's I think that, again, it's like, it's a fundamental shift that kind of needs to happen. And I think, but then it's like, well, okay, what can we do as like, people living in this world, or just like normal citizens? It's like, well, what can we do? And I think that what it really comes down to is the heart, is people's hearts, and finding your own faith, letting go of the fear, and truly following a path of the light, like whatever that it means for you, whether it's through religion, through spirituality, through your own meditation, through just your own life, like whatever that is. And I think that is a start. And I mean, if you think about it from this perspective, if all of us believed in karma, let's just say, no matter what religion or sin, karma, and sin, you could kind of refer to that in Christianity. And it's kind of like, if all of us kind of thought about it in this way, then we would stop and think, oh, if I do this, this is going to harm somebody, and I don't want to harm anybody, so therefore I don't want to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, it would actually create this like society where maybe we wouldn't even need police. It's like, oh, I shouldn't do this wrong thing because this is going to harm somebody and it's going to bring me pain as well. So instead of like doing this harmful thing where I want to act in a selfish way, I want to be selfless and offer my help and give help. You see someone doing wrong, there's other ways of pointing it out instead of like fighting against them. And I think, it's like everyone's waiting for something exterior to change, where it really
Yeah.
starts with ourselves.
Mm.
And when we change within ourselves, we will notice that things will start changing around us in a positive way, because we'll bring in that positive energy. I really truly feel that, what you give out will attract what comes back at you. So if you're a really negative person and you're really angry, you're going to see the world only in this like really angry kind of way, where you're going to see people that are going to respond to you that way. But if you're a really loving person and you really let go of the fear and really truly want to help others, you'll see a lot of hope in humanity. And that's kind of what I think, in my daily life.
Definitely. I agree with that 100%. And I feel I bring this up on my show a lot, but I really feel that the work we do in ourselves, just the work that you do in yourself, your own inner work, I don't think people realize how much that actually affects the collective.
It
Like, if you're
does.
doing a lot of work on yourself, then it actually raises the vibration of the whole collective. I don't think, people realize that, because we're all so interconnected. The collective unconscious, or the collective consciousness, is a real thing. And I think, the work we're doing in ourselves really affects everyone. And it's like that, quote, be the change you want to see in others, or something like that. And I really
Be the
feel this.
change you wish to see in the world.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that.
from Gandhi. Yeah.
There's another one by Lao Tzu that's kind of like that,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I
there
think I
is
like that one
actually.
better. I forget how it
Actually,
goes
the one by
though.
Lao Tzu is way better, and I can't remember. I can't remember what it is now. I
It's like
should
a
know
better
this.
version of that.
It is.
If
You're
if
right. You're
someone
right.
can find that, throw that in the comments. Just
Yeah, it's like
Google
be.
it,
Yeah,
and
you're absolutely right.
yeah,
It
I'd
is
like to
Lao
hear
Tzu's quote.
it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. There's some really good quotes that he wrote in Taoism. Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, I really feel that, at this time we're going through a shift in the collective consciousness. And I think, there's been
It's
these certain
true.
times where we've gone through these shifts throughout history. And I mean, like, way back in ancient history, I'm not saying like recently. And I think this is a really important time with all these different eras ending. Like, especially the Mayans have pointed to this, that there's what, like, 2 or 3 cycles ending and beginning at the same time right now. And this is a really interesting time. And I think we're going to have some major paradigm shifts in the coming years. If I mean, we have already, but I think there's going to be a lot more happening with this, and it's going to have to do with us becoming a spacefaring civilization. I mean, think of the way that we view life on the planet and the human race as a collective is going to be so much different when you can go to the other side of the world in, a half hour or something. I mean, and that's going to really change things. And I don't think people can really wrap their minds around that at this point. But when that happens, and if the free energy is rolled out and all these technologies are rolled out, we're going to be looking at things a lot differently, and it's going to be
Yeah.
really interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure. 100%, and, yeah, I mean, our world will really change completely. I mean, that's that. Imagine if you had. I mean, I know this won't happen, at least the way things are currently. But imagine like the whole world just getting into either a prayer or some kind of meditation, whatever whatever their religion, whatever they believe. But imagine like everybody doing that. I mean, our world, like all the evil in our world would like cease to exist overnight. It would just be this massive change. But, of course, it's not going to happen that way because, we're kind of in this battle of good and evil. And I feel like, everything that's playing out right now is for a reason, even though it's something that, a lot of us, it's hard to grasp and understand how everything is or why everything is going on right now.
Well,
But I
there's no
truly,
evolution without stress.
exactly, and I think that everyone has a choice that they need to make. And I think this is like everything's becoming very clear on but like where things are right now, and everyone's making a choice. And I truly believe that as chaotic as things seem here, from like from God's perspective, it's just like everything's playing out in a very orderly way, actually, because he can see everything, from everyone's, whatever you want to say, God or the universe, or it's like, anyway, everyone's mind is super clear and they can see it so perfectly. So it it really just kind of depends on us. And I think everything, we have the freedom of choice, and so everything is waiting for us to make this choice. And I believe that instead of I see this more as an opportunity, and that everything happening in the world right now is actually an opportunity for the evil people to understand what's going on. And they are they're being given a chance over and over again to make the right decisions. And I believe that everyone has a chance to be saved here. It's not, just because it's like we've all done bad things. It's just some people have done really, really bad things that have affected the rest of us. But I think that, if these people truly, truly step forward and want to repent and, share to the world what they know and what they've done, I think that, there will be they'll be forgiven in a different way. Maybe,
You
maybe
know,
some people have a hard time with it, but but what were you gonna say?
we had this conversation before recently, and I think it's really interesting because we were discussing how these people coming forward that are maybe a part of certain elite programs or from certain families that know a lot and realize that they don't want to basically sell out the human race. And I think
Hmm.
that is already starting to happen on a certain level. I think we're starting to see it a little, and I think it's going to be happening a lot more in the future, but hopefully it won't be too late at that point. But
Yeah, yeah.
I like I brought up before, that I feel that there's a lot of these people, their journeys are really molded by, or everyone, their journey is molded by what they go through in their lives. And I think a lot of these people, that these so-called elite, like New World Order, whatever type individuals, probably grew up in families where there was satanic abuse and programs put on them their whole lives from young kids, and they probably had a worse life than a lot of people out there. Even if they have millions and billions of dollars, they're probably put through really horrible programming and abuse as a child, and that
Yeah.
led them to where they're at now. So I think
Yeah.
it's really important to give everyone the opportunity to change and you know I guess decide if they want to change their paths and become a better person or grow as a person. So mhm.
Yeah, completely. And it doesn't justify their actions necessarily, but it's like you kind of see them. Oh, they're also victims, and you can also almost see it as they've been brainwashed by that side of things. And so, if you when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, man, it would be really pretty amazing if these people could wake up, but at the same time, it's sad what's happening all over the world. I mean, someone mentioned Australia earlier, and it's like, yeah, Australia is just ground zero for complete 1984 lockdown. And I can't even, I have friends there still, and I can't even believe, like Peter Maxwell Slattery, for example. He's just been, he hasn't, like, I don't even think he's left his house really to like do anything aside from like go grocery shopping and do a few things for like months. And it's like, I just can't even fathom that, especially being here in Florida, where it just feels like there's really not much going on here. It doesn't even feel like there's like any pandemic or anything going on. And then, like I said, you can go to LA and it's just like, oh, wow, everyone has to wear masks still and things like that. But, I mean, occasionally I'll go someplace and, they'll say, oh, you have to wear a mask here or something. But still, it's pretty open other than that. So
Yeah,
that really makes me sad, though, about what's happening like around the world. But what were you going to say?
yeah, it's crazy that there's these places like Florida where it's like everything's totally fine. You can go out and you don't need to like show your papers or wear a mask, and then you come to places like here in LA, and all of a sudden it's like a whole different reality, and it's like, how does this? I don't understand this.
I don't either.
It's like, and the people here, it's like they just want to protect this agenda, and they want to shame
Yeah.
everyone that's not going with it. And it's like the celebrities are the ones that are like really promoting it. I'm sure they're getting paid off to do that or something, and I guarantee they're not even really following it themselves. So it's like, what is going? And it's like people they just get so caught up in this bubble, this reality that they're stuck in, like here and other places, and they don't even realize what's going on in the rest of the world. Like people are totally fine. It's totally fine out there, And like, I don't know if it's like people get scared or it's more like they want to like shame each other to be, a part of the agenda, the reality that they feel they belong to. I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with like, well, what do you value more, your career or, or your kind of personal beliefs? And I think a lot of people are choosing their career over their personal beliefs. It's like, hey, you promote this, we'll promote you. You pull a Nicki Minaj and we'll like ban you from Twitter. And it's like, I can't even believe that. It's like, how in the world did Twitter, block Nicki Minaj for like a few days? And it's just, and then at the same time, it's like, this is crazy. Nicki Minaj is like, all of a sudden the people on the other side are now like promoting Nicki Minaj, and it's like, what the heck is going on in our world? It's like everything is backwards. But I think the positive thing that I'm seeing from a lot of these celebrities coming out from the other perspective is that these young people are really getting into conspiracies. So, I mean, when I was young, I mean that's all I got into too. I mean, even like growing up in my teens, I mean, I remember like looking into all this stuff, and then 9/11
Me too.
happened, and it just changed my world. And I was like, I just went full on like reading like, David Icke and all this stuff in the early 2000s, and well, Matrix. It was kind of like the Matrix, and then it was like opened my mind to like, wow, all this stuff could be real. And yeah, I just went really hard into all this. So it's kind of been my life, I guess. I feel like my whole life in a way.
Same
But
here, same here. And I know you've really, made a career out of it. It's really amazing.
well,
Um,
we tried, and then YouTube. So people were in the chat like wondering, like, oh wait, are you guys still on YouTube? And yeah, we got 2 weeks before the election, YouTube deleted our channel, Edge of Wonder. It had about 500,000 subscribers and close to 50 million views total, and overnight it was just like boom, gone. So sad. But now we created Rise TV, and Edge of Wonder is on Rise TV. I have my own show, Ben Solo, that's also on Rise TV. So that's where
yeah.
people can find it.
The aftermath portion of this will be ending soon. I don't know if you want to keep going a little
Yeah, we
on
can
other
we can.
platforms after we end it there.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Or
Yeah,
if
no,
you want to go, I mean, let me know because
no, it's
that's
cool.
coming up
Yeah,
here.
we can keep going a little longer on your platform, and
But
yeah,
here's
I'm about ready to start my own YouTube channel again. I'm just kind of waiting until I have a few more episodes, but it's my Ben Solo show that I'm just have on YouTube. But I also, so it's gonna have like a little bit lighter content on YouTube. Obviously, I don't want to go hard on the stuff that all the hard stuff and the really nice edited things will still be on Rise TV. So
And so for people out there that are confused, I know I see people in the chat all the time confused about this. Edge of Wonder was turned into Rise TV. The site was turned into Rise
yeah,
TV. Um, but the show Edge of Wonder is still on Rise TV,
yeah,
or
that's
you're
correct. Yeah,
remaking content for that
yeah, we
show.
the reason why we wanted to make we realized like having edgeofwonder.tv where everyone was coming to was like, well, we're kind of limiting ourselves. We don't want we for one, we didn't really want the focus to just be on Edge of Wonder. We wanted to build something even bigger where we can bring on a lot more different kinds of content, different content creators, bring on different documentaries, movies, all kinds of stuff. And we felt like just Edge of Wonder we always had to ask ourselves, well, does this fit Edge of Wonder? And it's like now that we rebranded to Rise TV, it's like, wow, we can do anything now. Edge of Wonder is now just a show on Rise TV instead of Edge of Wonder being the main focus. So we can make this thing bigger and grow it even faster, and have a lot more different various kinds of people on the platform, like a cooking show, like a conspiracy or health cooking show or
Hey,
something
I
like
want
that.
to do that one.
Yeah, it's like we would never do that, if
Please.
we just had Edge of Wonder. It's like, well, it doesn't really fit Edge of Wonder, but for Rise, we can do anything we
Oh
want.
my god, I feel like I could like really go hard with that. You guys should definitely let me do that. I know that
Yeah,
that has to be a whole like set and everything though. I don't know.
yeah,
We'll talk
no, but
about it.
I
We
want
should
to
talk
like.
about it on here. We gotta
I think it would be really cool to do something like that, and then yeah, and actually, we're about ready to launch uh, a lot more shows for Edge of Wonder. We have a 4-part transhumanism series coming out, and also a whole series based on Tartaria, the mysterious land of Tartaria. So that's
Oh, and
gonna.
I've been hearing about your research on that and I'm excited to see that. That's pretty interesting. Some information a lot of people don't really know much about. So
Yeah, I was even shocked to find out what I did about Tartaria. It really is. It really did exist. It was on maps. It was on almost all maps up until about 1850. And 1850, it's like bam, it just stops all of a sudden. And yeah, so I believe there's a whole reason for that. Why that is and everything. But it's not just a area of land as I like to say, Fakepedia says. It was actually a nation, and the Mongols were connected to it. So, but that's a whole other topic. We won't get into that.
yeah, and that's what I love about your show. I've been watching you guys since I don't know. I think around like 2018 or something when you guys came out, and I was like, wow, I really like the way that they're putting everything together because I've been a part of the UFO disclosure community for a while, probably like I've been involved in it for 7 years at this point, I think. And I always wanted to see like videos of these different speakers and like these different people in the community. And like if you look them up on YouTube, there's like, bad quality videos of them just talking at an event or something. And the way that you guys put together your shows was so well done. I was like, oh my God, like thank God someone's finally
Well,
doing this. And it relates to a younger audience. And, relating that back to what you said about younger kids these days being into conspiracy stuff. I think your show is definitely good for those that kind of audience. So as well as other audiences. So it's really cool.
thank you, Apollo. Yeah, we really tried to make it good and fun. I think that was the main thing for Rob and I. We were like, we want to make this really fun. We were watching all these conspiracy like shows kind of on YouTube, and it's like, man, everything's so serious. It's like, really, when you're talking about, reptilians that are possibly hiding within the government taking over the world, it's like you can't take yourself that serious at times.
Isn't
You
your
have
term for that Illuma donkey?
yeah. So, because I mean, from the outside world, it does sound totally ridiculous. So it's like, you don't have to laugh about it. And it's like, well, I don't know. Let's look into it and see what we can find. And, you know, it is pretty weird, the stuff that we came across. And I have to say, a lot of things that I would think would be debunked, the more we looked into it, we're like, man, this gets weirder and weirder and weirder, especially in LA. There's like all these catacombs that are ancient catacombs all over LA, and they're actually in a shape of a lizard.
Oh, wow.
And the LA Times wrote about it in like 1930 or something like that, or maybe it was either the late 1800s or the early
Let's
1900s.
I'd like to get into that. First I kind of want to wrap this up for the
Yeah,
aftermath
sorry.
audience. So sorry, pause that there. But yeah, thanks to everyone on Aftermath for joining tonight. I love being a part of this platform, and it's good to be a host on this platform. For those watching on YouTube, please go ahead and download the Aftermath app because there's a lot of really incredible hosts on there. It's a free speech radio network. It's just an app you can download and listen to the podcast anytime. So thanks to everyone for joining me on Aftermath tonight. It's really been really great having Ben here on from Edge of Wonder. And if you would like to help support my show, definitely go to shamanspears.com. I have a lot of really amazing handcrafted energy channeling devices that are up right now, and I can ship them out next day right now as I will be in town for the next couple of weeks. So you definitely want to catch me while I'm here and I can get those out to you. And yeah, so until next time on Apollo's Odyssey, thanks Aftermath, over and out. All right. So going on with the lizard people.
The lizard people. Yeah, no, that was just, it's really fascinating because you can find this in almost every culture, right? In Egypt, you have literally the statues of the lizard people. If you go to India, I have some friends who are Indian, and they were telling me that there's not just even ancient stories, but more recent stories of, they have a specific name for them, and off the top of my head, it's an Indian word, and I can't remember what it is. I don't think it's Naga. Naga actually means like viper or snake, but they call them something very specific, but it's almost loosely translated as like snake people or something like that. And they said that they've literally have, there's people in India that have seen these beings come up from underground. But you start looking into a lot of different cultures, even the Mayans, like there's all these different kinds of terminologies and words for these creatures, like the reptilians that everyone talks about. So, it's like it sounds like total craziness when you start thinking about it. But seriously, when you're researching this stuff 24/7 for like days on end, it's like, man, but then at the same time, there's things where I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely real. We're gonna find a lot of stuff on this. And when you look into it, it's like, wow, man, like everybody in this community has like certain aspects of like something wrong. It's like, because like a photo gets shared, a video or a meme or something or some information, and then like Tartaria is one of those things where the more I started looking into it, the more I started realizing how a lot of the, because what happens is that people will follow, like watch a video and everyone just copies that video, and so everyone's kind of
Yeah.
copying each other. And
It,
so when
no,
I,
it's like people talk about there being like an echo chamber with
yeah,
like, the media, the mainstream media, and but I feel like it also happens in our
it
community. We
totally
need to
does.
watch out for that.
Yeah. And so when I started looking in Tartaria, I'm like, dude, everybody's copying off each other and no one is saying where they got this source from. So it took me a long time to research this topic because I kept finding all these videos and all these articles talking about things, but no one is sourcing anything. So once I kind of went back and originally and finally found the original sources, it's like, well, okay, this is kind of questionable because some of this information is coming from this website that I finally found, and it's like the whole thing is questionable now. Now it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have to start back over from scratch and kind of work backwards. And so for some topics, I had to do that a lot. And there's a lot of like notions in the community where everyone's like, oh no, it's definitely this way. And when I looked into it, it's like, oh man, it's not quite that way, actually. It's just because everyone's repeating the same thing. So, but then there's other things like, I look at other stuff and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm probably not going to find anything on this. And then I found a bunch of stuff and it's like, changes my perception on some of these. So it was really interesting doing all this research and doing all of this.
What were you saying about there being um these I'm sorry, I'm not what was the word? It started with a C under LA. You were saying that before we went
Yeah.
into the break.
Yeah. So there are these catacombs
Catacombs.
in LA.
Yeah, are you
That,
saying that there's lizard people living in those
well,
under
okay.
LA?
I,
Like
I don't I don't know. I would love to like go down there and find out. I would love to find out. But
are they under the
um,
Hollywood Hills?
I
Because that's
don't know.
how I've
I'm
heard
thinking
that. I've heard that the Hollywood Hills are actually like kind of
dude,
hollow and that
I gotta
these are in there.
I gotta
And
find the article. I gotta find the
because
article.
like I don't know, I'm just wondering where you were going with that. Like, I mean, are you saying that
Um
there's like lizard people in the
well
entertainment industry? Because I feel
so
like that could
I
be
didn't say
very
that at all.
likely.
Okay,
I don't know. I'm wondering if that's where you were going with that.
oh dude, okay, I found it. I'm gonna put it in this chat here where we're both are, where you can pull it up and you can show people if you want. So it was 1934 and LA Times wrote the article. Just think about that. I mean, like, you think that they would write it now about possible lizard people living in LA and these catacombs? Like, this is like shows the difference between media then and now. But actually, it's this researcher guy who went into who found the catacombs. He actually drew a map. You can actually find it in the LA Times article, and they found all these old artifacts, these like really ancient stuff and everything. And the headline is literally "Lizard People's Catacombs City Haunted." that's the headline for this article.
Yeah, here,
So
I'm pulling this up right now. Oh my god. This is from the LA Times.
this is from the LA Times.
Are you sure this isn't like
No,
photoshopped or
no, 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 no,
something?
no, no, no.
Where did you find
This
this?
is one of the. This is on LA Times official website.
What the hell?
You can
Okay,
find this.
I know that there has to be something to this, or I figured that there has to be something to this, like before I saw this, because
So
on BoJack Horseman, do you know that cartoon
yeah,
BoJack
yeah, yeah,
Horseman? So
yeah.
there's this whole like two episodes I think where they meet like so obviously for people that don't know, BoJack Horseman is a show that kind of portrays what life is like in Hollywood, being a part of the entertainment industry very well, actually. As someone who lives in LA who's part of the entertainment industry, I love it. It's really well done, and it's kind of random because, like, it's a cartoon, but then it shows like the different people will randomly be like animals or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I actually really love it. It's really well done. And actually, the theme of it is
I have to
trying to
check it out.
portray a narcissistic personality, someone who has a
Right.
narcissistic personality disorder, and how sad it is that some people have this and they can't, there's no like cure for it.
Right.
So that's actually what they're trying to portray with the whole series, and it's actually really
Fine.
amazing and very well done. I mean, not in a like a real like, you know, there's people that have this disorder
Yeah.
and it's because of what they went through in their past that they can't heal. But anyway, that's a whole tangent on its own. But there's actually like a couple episodes where in it there's an earthquake and they're in a mansion at a party and there's an earthquake and they fall down into this catacomb and there's all these like lizard
Lizard
people
people?
and
That's
they're just like, and
hilarious.
it's like common knowledge. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we knew that they were here."
Yeah,
And like,
scroll.
it's just
If you
like, wait,
scroll
what?
down in this link, you'll see the map that the guy drew. Okay, like oh
I
wait, I'm
don't
sorry.
see a
Sorry.
map
Go
here.
back up and scroll inside the
Oh, okay.
there you go. Yeah, scroll inside that. Next page, you'll see the there he is. There it is. So that's the map the guy drew of the catacombs. And then there's like photos of like these artifacts and things that he found in there too. And there's
Dude,
like doorways and everything. It wasn't just like it's not just like, oh, well maybe this is like some kind of like,
does it show
yeah.
where these are located though? Like in relation to like a
I
map of
don't
Hollywood?
know. And they're
I see right
estimating
here
it
it
to be
says
about
cement steps to sunset. So that
yeah.
must have oh my god, I think this is actually the road that goes up to where I live up in the hills. I swear to I'm not kidding.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I
And so
wouldn't
this
doubt
must
it.
be, you know, someplace. See, yeah, because there's
Yeah.
the school right there. This is probably Sunset. Or I'm wondering if this is, I mean, that's probably not under the
I mean, you
road.
got to
But
realize what we're looking at is underground, right? So
I,
it's hard to say. It could actually be in downtown LA. It could be around Hollywood. I'm not really 100% sure.
well, it says right here, this is the
But
new Civic Center building site
okay,
right
so it's
here.
closer to downtown, it looks like, right?
I don't know where the Civic Center
Okay.
is.
Although it's saying the new Civic
Oh,
Center
here's
there, which is 1934 new. So I
oh yeah, you
don't know
know,
if that's
actually
flexible.
everything has been renamed.
Yeah,
Like all the major studios in Hollywood have been like renamed at different
dude.
points and everything.
Th-
So
yeah,
it's
it's
hard to say
crazy.
the roads have changed and yeah, but I have
Yeah,
a
I
feeling
mean,
that there's a lot under the hills,
yeah,
you
I
know?
would definitely guarantee it. I mean, with all like the stuff going on there, and oh man, actually, it just like
Well, this
so.
is saying this is 500 years ago, people lived under the ground there.
This is five
500,
thousand years ago.
I know there is a pyramid somewhere
Yeah,
near LA. There's an old pyramid.
I
I've
would
only
bet.
heard it talked about a little bit, and I've explored like all around here, but I haven't made it out to there yet. I really need to go on an adventure to do that because I guess it's kind of hard to find. Like they really try to keep it secret. But from what I've heard a lot of people say that apparently at one time, the west coast of California was actually at one point the edge of Lemuria. I don't know if that's true
Yeah,
or not, but I've heard a lot on that.
I mean, the fact that Hollywood is what it is. I mean, I truly believe that you don't have people, a large group of people that are influencing so much of our society as a whole in an area if there's not something to it. So I think the same thing with New York as well. I think something's definitely going on New York. It could be in like, I'm talking like could be another dimension, could be something underground. I don't know, but I think that there's a reason why all of these things are going on and why all these people are here. So with LA, it makes sense. And the energy in LA, no offense, but the energy in LA is super weird.
I
I
was
like
supposed to go, this
California
is my
so
city.
much.
I can't believe you'd say this about my city.
Yeah. But
It's very
LA is
weird.
just like the energy. It's the same thing in New York though. When I go to New York, I'm like, I lived in New York, and it's like, but everyone kept asking me like, why are you living in New
No,
York? It's like the worst energy of the whole nation is in New York. I'm like, well, that's why I feel like I need to
Mhm.
live in the
Yeah,
other.
I say the same thing. I like, I'm holding this vibration here. It's been hard,
Yeah.
especially the last couple years. But I will say that like hiking in Calabasas, and I mean,
Whoa.
there's certain areas of LA that are actually really, really beautiful and amazing. And
Yeah, it's true.
that
I mean,
energy there, I mean, that has
yeah,
nothing to do with, and that is like some really incredible energy. It's
yeah.
really amazing to feel that. But you know, the city. I guess it's like what's in LA, like the weather there, everything is so amazing, but what is brought there, the personalities of the kind of people that are
True.
attracted there.
Yeah. And a lot of like satanic agendas. But Leon the Wise said something. He's like, he mentions Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's like, yeah, I mean, what is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? It's a group of reptilians that live underground that eat pizza. So it's like
Well, they're turtles though. I mean,
they're
is that
turtles.
considered
That's true. They're not like
aren't turtles
snakes.
amphibians?
Yeah, but they're all part. I mean, well, yeah, certain ones are.
Amphibians
Yeah.
aren't like technically reptiles, right? They're like
No, they're all kind of in the
it's like a variation of
reptilian. Yeah, I mean, I guess amphibians are a little bit slightly different, but they're usually in the same cousinish family or something like that. But anyway, and that's where it gets weird. It's like, hey, wait, reptilians living underground. That's kind of strange. But then it's like you can find all of these references. And then you find like you're talking about like this Bowman Jack, like kind of making fun of it. It's like,
BoJack Horseman.
but whatever. Yeah, BoJack Horseman. And it's like, whoa, this is kind of strange, And then you start looking into other things, and that's where it gets kind of strange when things start kind of lining up a little bit, And granted, I'm not saying that reptilians live underground because I actually
Uh,
don't know, but when you start looking at other cultures, like Bigfoot is another example. It's like every culture on Earth has a name, has their name for Bigfoot. Like every single one. If Bigfoot didn't exist, then how are all these cultures seeing the same creature and describing the same creature in their own language? It's so fascinating to me, when you really look into these things, especially these cryptid stuff. The cryptid zoology has always kind of really fascinated me, though. So,
mm. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. You were talking about how like every culture has these names for it, and I think that also relates to like the Great Flood, like connecting what you were saying about Tartaria earlier and the connections with that. The Great Flood, there's a name for that. Or every culture around the world has a story of the Great Flood,
it's true.
and
Yep.
and every culture around the world has stories of these ancient gods coming down from the sky and giving them knowledge and information.
Yeah, it's totally true. And there was the Dogon, I think it's called Dogon,
The
and
Dogon tribe in
yeah,
Africa.
in Africa. They had maps of the stars that were like carved out and stuff that they figured out at first. No,
They said we came from Sirius, right?
well, they didn't say
And they
that
didn't
we.
even know what Sirius was. Like how we didn't
That's the thing. It
technically.
wasn't. Well, what they said was the people that visited them came from Sirius, and what was fascinating was that they had the Sirius star system, and then they had this like little dot, and it looked like it was rotating around this sun. Well, no one knew what it was because we didn't even have telescopes powerful enough to see at that point. It wasn't really until we got the Hubble telescope where they looked at Sirius B, I think it was Sirius B, and they realized that what they were drawing was the planet that was rotating around Sirius B. And they
Well, it was
said,
a binary star system,
yeah,
right? Is that what they were
exactly.
saying? It was a
Yeah.
binary star system or
Yeah,
two
it was
star
like they were
system?
pointing out that it was already, and like no one knew this. It wasn't known until we had the Hubble telescope. So it's like, how in the world did they know that existed, or had the binary star system and the planets, the rotations, all of this without any kind of like scientific instruments, and you can't see it with the naked eye. It's like it doesn't exist. So So it's really fascinating when you really look into these ancient tribes, how advanced they were. And then you think about the pyramids, of Egypt, and how the stones are so perfectly placed. You can't even put a hair in between them. We can't even recreate this with our technology today and everything, and then they were saying, oh, well, I guess that's the big question, is how are they built, but when you really look into it, there's so many mysteries about it. And then on top of that, like, you find pyramids all over the world, including they found one off of the coast of Japan underwater. So when you start looking at this, it's like, yeah, these things are a lot older than what we're being told, I believe. It's possible that the pyramid of Giza was built a long time ago.
I've actually heard accounts. So I've talked with Larry Dean Hunter,
Hmm.
who's an archaeologist that works there, and he's very respected by the Egyptians, that live there and that work with him. And he's one of the only archaeologists that are really allowed to do some of the work he does in regards to like going under the pyramid and basically being able to go up the pyramid anytime he chooses, and also studying the supposed Noah's Ark wreck that's on the top of Mount Ararat in Turkey, which is fossilized petrified wood. A ship that's made of petrified wood at the top of Turkey, Mount Ararat, which no one's really allowed to go up there. And he told me that he actually thinks that from his work and all the work he's done on it, which is much more than a lot of people, especially in our community, that maybe went there once and looked at it. He says that he actually believes them to be millions of years old. He said there's fossilized shells at the top,
Wow.
and he said so. Mount Ararat, he believes his understanding is that when the floodwaters receded, there after the Great Flood, which like he said there were different floods, and he actually like so I believe in the account of there being a flood 11,500 years ago. I've done a lot of research with that and Grim Hancock's work. I love reading his books, but he said that there was an even more ancient Great Flood that was millions of years ago,
Mhm.
and that the ship that is on the top of Mount Ararat in Turkey is fossilized, and there's actually fossilized whale bones right under it, or
Wow,
right
that's so
around it.
fascinating.
And he said that the residue on the work that he's done on the pyramid showed that it was underwater at one point as well. So he actually believes it to be millions of years old. I mean, apparently the fossilized whale bones he found were millions of years old.
Yeah, I mean,
So
a lot of
I
things.
don't know what to think of that, but
Yeah, and that's the thing. It kind of goes back into the beginning of the conversation about, you know, this global syndicate elite thing, whatever you want to call it. It's like they're if if they know the truth about a lot of this stuff, then it's like they're hiding it from humanity. If we truly knew where, and how do you rule people, is like, number one is you cut off their roots so they don't know who they are. It's easier to control them. If we don't know where we came from and who we are, then it's like we're a lot easier to be controlled. And I believe that's truly the main reason why we are not being told a lot of things. If we were told that, yes, giants existed, that all kinds of different things existed, that ancient civilizations existed millions and millions of years ago, it's like all of a sudden everybody would ask questions, and we wouldn't be so concerned what's on the news anymore. We would
so
be more concerned about, who are we? Where did we come from? Like, give us this kind of information, and it's like all of us would be seeking out those answers.
and what I always like to say in regards to all this, and especially on the topic of disclosure, is why the secrecy in the first place? I mean, it was obviously at one point common knowledge that these things were happening, that there were ETs or gods visiting from outer space throughout many ancient civilizations. And then it seems like there's a point where this information was lost, or maybe people were threatened to like not talk about it anymore. Maybe a few generations went by and people forgot about it as they were like threatened to not talk about it anymore or something. And then there comes a point where, or maybe a flood, a cataclysm hit, and then the next generations, the people that survived, didn't really know that much about what had happened predating that. And then all of a sudden, we come to a point in history where people don't believe in these things, and it's like these crazy conspiracies, and now all of a sudden we're coming to a point where this information is being revealed in a way to the public again. And it's like, what happened there?
Well,
What?
I think I have my beliefs on why that happened, but I think the root of it is to weed out religions. And it's like you can really pinpoint a lot of things around 1850. Like, for example, did you know that the term dinosaur actually came around 1852, and it was created by a Marxist dude in which
Marxist dude.
yeah, he was totally like following all this stuff, and it was like it really was an agenda being pushed, and Darwin was influenced by all this stuff. So they changed. Before it was dinosaur, it was dragon. Everything was just called dragons, and then they changed it to the word dinosaur. It means like terrible lizard. And imagine if we still called dinosaurs dragons to this day. And I think the main thing is that it would kind of almost prove in a lot of ways about what religions are saying. If all of a sudden it came out giants are true, then it's like, oh, well, they mentioned giants in a lot of different religions.
And I mean, there's been
Maybe they're
giants
true.
found all around the world. I mean, it's
Exactly.
very, I mean,
Exactly.
well, but the Smithsonian apparently has come in and destroyed a lot of that. But I mean, there's a place in Ecuador. You can go to a museum in Ecuador, I believe it is, and they have a 22-foot giant skeleton just in the middle of the
Yeah,
museum, and you can go
it's
there
true.
now and see that. So
Yeah.
it's like when people try to say like this isn't true, it's like, yeah, it is. It is definitely true. It's like the media is tries so hard to like eliminate
Yeah.
this knowledge, and it's like it like it does go against religion. It's
It
interesting because
completely
it's
does.
like people argue that maybe they're doing that because they want to like go with the official story that or narrative that's put out, but actually it really doesn't. If they're trying to
Yeah.
prove that these stories in the Bibles existed, then they would actually show that, yeah, this was happening. I mean, I know you're from Ohio. I know there has been evidence of these like ancient wars between the Native Americans and the giants. And the Native Americans there have these legends going back thousands of years of fighting off the last of these giants that were
Yeah.
basically cannibals and eating them.
Yeah. I mean, even Abraham Lincoln mentions giants too. And, and free live free now says the redheaded giants. Yeah, I mean, and that's what a lot of people talk about. You read Marco Polo. Marco Polo even describes these kinds of things, and everyone thinks he's like talking about something else, or oh, maybe he saw people from a distance. Dude, he goes in great detail of explaining a dinosaur. He talks about this like gigantic reptilian looking thing like that's like 20 feet high walking on high legs and has like short hands, and it's like, dude, that like he's pretty much describing all these things to a T. And then mainstream society is like, oh, he's talking about an alligator, and it's like, what alligator walks upright with their two legs? you, you know so it's just it goes against it's so much easier to control people when you remove their religion, their culture, their traditional heritage. You remove that, and all they know is what is now, and then you change the past, you rewrite the history, and it's so much easier to control people that way. And I believe that is truly why we're seeing what we're seeing and why
It,
things were changed.
and not much is passed down between generations. I mean, if one generation is kind of like, a lot of their history is eliminated or rewritten, which is obviously happening right now during our generation, then the next generation, if there's nothing that they can see about what happened, if things were eliminated, if there's book burnings and all these things happening, all the knowledge being wiped out, statues being taken down, how's the next generation going to really know what had happened?
That's exactly it. And Mao did that as a test run in China, and that's like, you talk to a lot of the younger people in China today. I mean, a lot of them are so brainwashed that they think that the students that were killed during the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989, they think that, oh, they deserved it because they opened fired on the on the military. So because they did that, you know, they deserve to um, die basically. And it's like, what, you know, and it's just because that's what they're learning in schools. The
Man,
CCP controls everything that they learn.
I've been reading this book about what happened during the Cultural Revolution. It's a science fiction book. I mentioned it earlier, but the three body problem. It starts being set in the Cultural Revolution, and man, I didn't know much. I'd heard about it, but actually reading this and seeing what had happened during that time, it was taken from like real accounts. Obviously, it was science fiction, but I really didn't understand like how bad it was until I read this, and I was completely blown away. I was like, I mean, it's crazy what happened during that time. And of course, people should have been standing up for it. Why wouldn't they?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And then I mean, kind of going on like tradition, you know. Well, someone brought up in the chat. I'm sorry, I didn't know who it was. I just happened to see it, but it's like, you know, unfortunately, like something like people today aren't much into history, and it's true. You know, everyone, it's like, why do you care about what happened 1,000 years ago when you know everything's going right now? Like we should be paying
But
attention to
it
what's
all
happening
relates
now.
to right
But
now.
it does. That's the key. You know, it's like, well, if you learn about your history in the past, you'll start realizing what is going on now and why things are happening right now the way they are. So I think that's the key. You know, there's a also in the Gabon Republic, there was a mine in that was found, and they take ore, uranium ore, out of this country, and because they can't refine it there, and in like around like 1970s, they exported this ore, and there was a company that found that they were already extracted and utilized. So like, how can this be? Like they don't, you know, the Gabon Republic doesn't have their own means to refine ore. So all these scientists went there to investigate it and everything. And one of the scientists came out and said, "This is a nuclear reactor. Like like mainstream society has acknowledged, or I should say, mainstream science has acknowledged it was a nuclear reactor, but they said it's a natural recurring nuclear reactor, which has never been found since on Earth." And there was a scientist that studied it, and he came out. I can't remember his name. He was a French guy, and he said that in order for water to refine a nuclear reactor, you have to have the most purest water. Like it can't touch anything. It has to be like super, super pure. And the whole environment needs to be like completely sealed off. They said, he said it's impossible that this would happen in nature. And it was over like 500 million years old. Actually, I think it was like more like 2 billion years old now that I think about it.
Wow.
So
Is that the one that's mentioned in the ancient texts, the Indian texts?
I think it is. It's
Or
mentioned
is
in a
that a
few.
later one?
Well, I think it's mentioned in a few different places. And, you know, again, it's like, well, you know, it's almost more ridiculous saying that, oh, this is a naturally occurring nuclear reactor. And it's like, wait, what? Like, where is there ever a naturally occurring nuclear reactor? How did nuclear reactors exist a billion years ago or 2 billion years ago? So it's like, it's almost like so crazy the way the mainstream science tries to explain things. It's like, can't you just explain things that, hey,
you know,
actually, maybe this is true. Let's look into it and find out, you know?
and I don't think people realize how deep these civilizations are layer wise on the planet, like how much time or how little time it actually takes to for sediment to build up. And I actually saw this documentary recently on I don't know, it was something on History Channel or something. They were trying to find the ancient roads that Alexander the Great built in Alexandria, like back when Alexandria was like founded or by Alexander the Great. And they dug down through all these layers, and this layer where the ancient Roman roads were built was like a mile under the ground or like half a mile under the ground. And it's like, I mean, that's crazy. That means all this sediment that built up, that's only in the last like, I mean, basically that time was only a little before the time of Jesus. So that was like, you know, what, like 2,500 years ago, something like that. That's not very much time considering the entire time period that humanity has been on the planet. So imagine how deep a layer of a civilization would be from like 10,000 years ago, or, you know, 20,000 years ago, or 100,000 years ago. I mean, that would, I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy, and I don't
Yeah.
think
I
people
mean,
think about that. I think there's so much that's yet to be discovered, especially here in America.
well, yeah. And this is why it completely, throws out Darwin, immediately out the window, because it's like, according to Darwin, I think they changed it now. Originally, it was like, oh, man has only been here 10,000 years. Now they say 25,000 years ago, and that's it. And it's like, wait a minute, we're finding relics from like over 100,000 years ago. Like, no
Yeah.
problem, So explain this. Oh, wait, there's giants, in the whole land of Tartaria. It seems like there was all these like creatures, like these giants that were all over the area. So it just, I think it goes back into control. And it's like, seriously, you have people that are writing these history books as well, and it's like they want to make money. They don't want to, these some of these books, like some of these books that we reference were written in like the 50s, and they've like become the guide stone of um, of like geology, for example. And it's like, wait a minute, a lot has changed in even 50 years in geology. We have a lot more technology than we did even 10 years ago.
Well, then
So
a lot of this information has been, hoarded. Like there's been, book burnings supposedly by
yeah,
like when the Spanish conquistadors came to
it's
the
true.
natives in South America. They had the Catholics send out crusaders to burn all the books there. And, this happened all over the world, but I think really they didn't burn it. They took it and put it in the Vatican. And there's like so much history there about the planet that I think they're hiding for a lot of these reasons.
Oh, I completely agree. And even the Vatican itself will kind of, I mean, dude, ah, that's a whole other topic of the
Yeah.
Vatican.
Oh, and
All
Matthew
right, that
here
really,
mentioned the Library of Alexandria. Yeah,
yeah,
I believe that was what happened too. From the account I've heard,
yeah,
I think what they burned, the portion of the library that they burned was just like the taxes, like the tax records, supposedly, and they took all the important stuff and brought
that
it to the
that is
Vatican, which
that's
makes sense
what.
because I mean that happened when the Romans were getting ready to take over, and the Egyptian, the Hellenistic era ended with Cleopatra when her, Julius or Brutus was basically taken out, and then she was held hostage, and then they killed her and took over, and
Yeah.
that was the end of the Egyptian empire, as that was.
Yeah, I think a lot. I think, man, if the Vatican unveiled everything they have, it would change everything overnight. But then again, it's like it's the Vatican. I mean, they did put a statue of Moloch in front of the Vatican, so I mean, there you go, right there. Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other show
That's
topic
what
on
I
its
mean.
own.
Like, why would they do that? I don't know. So relying on them to give us free information about our history, yeah, it needs to be a serious, massive change that happens in our world for them before that's going to happen.
And I feel like
Yeah.
the Van, I mean, I don't know if I should, it's right for me to connect this over here on YouTube, but I think there's a connection with our history being kept secret and the crusades that were sent out by the Vatican around the planet. I think those go very much hand in hand. Not to blame, I'm not blaming Christianity by any means. I grew up
Oh, no,
Christian.
no,
I'm
no,
not saying
no.
there's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
your belief in God and the
No, no.
hierarchy of
This is
angels, and
this
then
is
there's a
like
whole other
two.
thing that's going on.
Yeah, no, this is two totally different things. And I mean, my father or he's retired now, but he was a Baptist minister. So it's like, what we're like, to me, the Vatican is like anti-religion. It's like, God says, like, essentially, like, don't get involved, like, don't make it a political thing, getting involved in in your faith and everything. And the Vatican has made it political. So they're no longer, for the faith aspect. They're doing this for political reasons. So
I think that
they,
was always about power with them from the
it was.
beginning.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why you have Martin Luther in the 1500s who went away from the church, because he said he saw the corruption in the church, and he's like, you guys are not following what you should be preaching. Like you're not following what you're preaching. You've all become like greedy and selfish and everything. And he saw how they were like using their own, like using the church for their own benefit. And so that's why he broke away and started just his own missionary work. And then he developed a following. And that's how we have the Lutheranism now. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and
But
that's where the Methodists and
yeah,
Baptists and all those people kind of stemmed off from that. I grew up Methodist and I felt like it was very not dogmatic in certain ways. I really actually liked it a lot.
yeah, Baptist seems to be a little bit more, you know, very more strict rule kind of thing. But it was a
Baptist is a little more like fiery hell and damnation, right?
yeah, it can be. Luckily, my father was not like that, but it definitely can be,
yeah,
especially if you're in the South. Yeah,
yeah, I think that's more of a southern thing.
but definitely it can be. It's funny, but
Hmm.
but anyway, wow, this has been a really good
Yeah,
conversation, though.
yeah, it has. Yeah, I'm getting a little worn out. How about you?
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, we could keep this going, right? I mean, I could talk to you about anything forever, so it's yeah. I mean,
well, then
maybe we
that's
should
what's
end
so
this at some point.
cool. You know, it's like everyone always asks me like, oh yeah, well, I'm always usually asking other people, what do you want to talk about? Because like I can kind of, I mean, we have shows on every single topic you can think of now. In fact, even trying to think of like a show, I'm like, dude, we already did this, we did this, we did this. Like, what's left, But I think now it's kind of like, well, there's so many new things that have came out, new developments, new understandings, new evidence for a lot of things, and I think it's easy to talk about a lot of stuff, but that's what makes it cool having these conversations, because it's like I was just like randomly something will pop in my head and I'm like, wow, yeah, that's right. I remember researching this, and this is connected to this and this, and it's like we can go from talking about lizard people to having faith and spirituality or whatever,
So,
to
and I
whatever we
think
want
we
to talk
should
about.
circle this back, not to sound like that pesky chick or whatever her name is, but circling it back to where we started. So the theme of tonight's show was obviously humanity to go where no man has gone before. And I guess what we meant by this when we were getting the show title together earlier today is, focusing on the idea of getting rid of, not in a violent way, but I guess overcoming this global syndicate and taking our power back
and
as
where
a human
and
race,
where
or
would we
stepping
be?
into our power where we would be if we didn't have this over us. Where could we go? And ramping up into a spacefaring civilization and going to other planets, creating space habitats, which is something I wanted to get into. I haven't really got into, but creating space habitats, where we could live in the atmosphere instead of just on the ground, which would actually be better in some ways if we could create our own environment in those, which is
Exactly.
possible. Then we wouldn't have to deal with like cataclysms on the planet. And so there's all these amazing solutions that we have as a collective. And I think really what it comes down to is stepping into our power and coming together and co-creating the future together.
Exactly. And this is what really bothers me with about this whole global elite thing. It's like, oh my gosh, th- that's all we need to do is just come together. Like, imagine what we could achieve instead of, I mean, but there needs to be a fundamental change, and not just a change, a shift in our consciousness, even. Because imagine, like, no longer having a company where you are trying to sell a product to other people, or making a product for other people to sell, and it's all about money. Instead, it's like, hey, let's bring all these different companies together. Let's let's join forces and figure out how we can serve humanity. And when we start having companies that are asking those questions, that's when things are going to change. If companies
I
are like,
think
go what?
I think like a great example of that to like put into perspective is like what if obviously there's this whole issue of the fossil fuels,
Yeah,
so it's like there's these companies that like the oil companies and these car companies, and they can still keep doing their thing, that's fine, but what if these other companies come in here and say, oh hey, I want to start making cars that are powered off free energy. I found these blueprints for it. I've been working with these scientists. We came up with our own method, which
exactly.
is actually way more efficient. So we're going to start doing this, and you guys can keep doing your thing, but we're going to have this going on over here, and we're going to price it in a way that is not extremely overpriced. And, maybe you don't need gas or anything for it, and then people don't have to pay for gas anymore. It's like
That's exactly it.
it's like we don't have to eliminate these things. We can just
Yeah.
people can just come together and start building their own thing. We don't need these
That
elites to
well
tell us where to go with this.
that's the whole thing. It's the whole this global warming thing. Or pollution definitely exists 100%, but it's like it's designed, I feel, to make people feel guilty. And it's like, well, okay, we'll stop producing water bottles that are, for one, require 3 gallons of gasoline
Seriously.
and like
And they focus on the straws. They're like, the straws are the problem.
yeah,
Look, it's so easy. In my opinion, hemp
just
is where to go. Like, hemp can so
yeah,
easily be made into recycled products.
yeah,
Like,
like
any of those
hemp,
disposable products could be made off hemp. And it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
easy to grow.
Hemp is like the product that could save our humanity, honestly,
And
our world.
especially here in America, that is the
Yeah,
cash crop of America that can
yeah.
be grown all
And
across the United
we
States.
can
And
we
it
can
was at one point.
literally we could make plastic that's biodegradable, that's all natural products. It's no problem. It just costs a little bit more, and companies don't want to do it because
But I
because of the
feel if
cost.
companies came forward and they started doing this, or these hemp industries,
Yeah,
if they came together and built, I think it has a lot to do with the cost. Has a lot to do with like building, whatever materials they need to like be able to produce this. But once they're able to do that, I feel that the general public would want to use these kind of products over the disposable
definitely,
plastic products, and they would probably
definitely.
start going with companies that are only using these kinds of
Yeah,
bioplastics as opposed to going with companies that are still doing that.
completely.
So they would probably
Yeah.
end up doing better in the long run
Yeah,
financially.
totally. And it's like styrofoam is the same thing. You can't recycle styrofoam. And it doesn't biodegrade. So it's like there's so many products in our world. Like these masks are another thing. They're like literally have now littered our ocean with masks, like billions of them. And it's like it all comes back to greed. It's like the oil companies don't want to change. Free energy, oil companies go out of business. You have cars that it's like, well, what do we do with all the cars that everyone have already bought? We put out free energy cars. No one's going to want their cars anymore. And it's
Well, those cars can be scrapped and melted down and turned into
it's
other kinds of metal
and
work.
that's what I mean. It's going to require a massive fundamental paradigm shift in everyone's consciousness and thinking, and mostly the people making decisions, because it's kind of like, we as the people, we want this to happen, but until companies change, I don't see a massive change happening. Maybe something external will need to happen. And I think one of the positive things when we have like any kind of pandemic or any kind of like something that brings people together, is that during that time, everyone is forced to work together. Like, for example, the beginning of the pandemic, everyone's like, oh, we need the respirator machines, and Trump actually got these companies together. Ford and a couple other car industries is like, hey, look, you guys aren't making cars right now, no one's buying them, and they're like, yeah, we can start making these respirators. And it was like all these car companies got together and started producing things. And it was almost like what happened in World War II. World War II is the same thing. You have all these different manufacturing companies that are all of a sudden like, hey, we don't need to, you know, start making this anymore. We can do anything to help. So you have all these different companies that were maybe making, you know, a micro, or well, I guess they didn't have microwaves back then, but you know, like, you know, whatever it is, some appliance or something, and all of a sudden they're making like shells for the military. So, you know, but that's like one extreme, but I think, like, you know, we almost need something like that to happen to kind of shake everybody up. But until companies are doing less things for profit and more for humanity, I don't really think that we're going to see a fundamental shift. And this is why I kind of find all these global leaders talking about climate change is almost like a joke. It's like, wait, you guys, yeah,
they're the ones that are causing, perpetuating the problem. I mean, that's what bothers me. It's like, why doesn't Greta Thunberg or whatever her name is talk about that? Yeah, I don't understand. And then they go to these conferences and talk about it, flying in their private jet.
Yeah, all of
and
them.
Wasting way more fuel than anyone else does.
And they all need like a whole entourage of cars, you know, as they're going to the event. You know, it's like 30 cars behind just for one guy. And it's like, you know, I'm going to talk about climate change in my 30-car entourage in my private jet. And it's like, what?
and to me, it's like, I don't see why, like, the general population doesn't just see straight through that. It's like, okay, obviously there's these problems that are happening on the planet. Obviously, we do have an issue with pollution. It is a major problem. But the people that are pushing that as a problem, that we need to, like, put fart bags on cows and, like, I don't know. It's like
what? Oh my God. Yeah, it's just so ridiculous. And I think, I think the media is to blame for this. You know, the media won't show the cars behind, you know, the one guy driving to the thing. You only find that in the alternative media and everyone talking on Facebook.
But what it is it's these global, you know, this global syndicate, from their perspective, they see it as they're not wasting everything on the planet, the resources. It's all of us. We're the ones that are wasting everything and destroying everything.
We're choosing to buy their products, so it's our fault. You know, we don't have to buy that water bottle in the dispenser, even though that we can't drink out of the water fountain because that's like got so much fluoride in it that we don't even want to drink it, and probably all kinds of pollution. So we were forced to buy the water bottle out of the machine. And it's just this vicious cycle that we're all a part of. And that's why I don't think, you know, anyone's really to blame at it. It's just the way our society is right now. And if we truly want to step out, I think it really starts with ourselves, and we have to change within ourselves. And that's the only way that we're really truly going to create an impact, I believe. And I think it has happened. I think that, you know, people have really, there has been a lot of changes through all of this. And I think we've kind of talked about that in the beginning, you know, and so, but I'm still hopeful for all of this. No matter what, you know, I am hopeful. I feel that people are changing and things are being exposed. And, you know, I don't think that the way things are going to last too much longer. I just can't. It's kind of like filling up a water bottle, and it, you know, at some point it's just going to start overflowing. And I think we're kind of reached that point. And I think once things start overflowing, everything's going to start being revealed. And once that happens, people will learn the truth.
You know, I feel like right now during this time, it's like the light, all this darkness is coming up because the light needs to clear it out. It needs to be eliminated and cleared out. And I think that's what we're seeing happen on the planet right now. And it's definitely really interesting to see. And I almost wonder if, like, some of these characters, like, you know, like Elon Musk and these kind of people that are, like, you know, spending all this money to go to outer space, maybe they're not necessarily negative people. Maybe they see what's going on. They're like, hey, you know, if NASA's not going to try to go out to the moon or go out to mine these asteroids, I'll make my own company and I'll do it. I have money, you know, so I don't want to completely throw them under the bus. Like, maybe that's what
I agree.
Do. And I
I
think that would be
agree.
amazing if they did that, and everyone, I mean, they would be revered for like the rest of history if that is the case.
Yeah, I agree. Elon is still kind of an enigma to me. But however, this whole thing that happened where CNN was trying to say if Elon sold like 2% of his stock, he could like end world hunger. And then he responded and said, sure, I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Just put everything in open source so I can see all the books, all the accounting, where all the money's going to go, and just do it right here on Twitter. And I'll do it right now. And it's like then they had to give all the excuses. Well, okay, yeah. Then the guy's like, yeah, let's set up a meeting and we can actually talk about it. And Elon's like, no, just put it out right now. What's there to discuss? Like, you guys are a nonprofit government organization. Just like put it all out there. And they didn't. And then they came back and said, well, wait, then someone figured out that the same organization got $8 billion. So they were saying if Elon gave them $6 billion, it would end world hunger, and yet they raised $8 billion the year before. So then it's like, where did that money go to? You obviously didn't make any impact in ending world hunger with $8 billion. So yeah,
And
it's just
getting to that,
weird.
like the world hunger thing, it's like, okay, if we were all like a self-sustaining society, we were self-sustaining communities, and every community grew its own food, there wouldn't be world hunger anymore. And I think that's something that, when we talk about stepping into our power as a collective, like why, I mean, I'm sure there's probably places around the world where they probably have issues with getting food together, but I think if we transition from being a more like every man out for themselves kind of society to a community minded, co creative society as a collective on the planet, things would look a lot different. And I feel that things are going to transition that way in the energy we're moving into, but it might take a lot of the current systems breaking down for that to happen.
Agreed. Agreed.
So, I think we kind of wrapped all this up. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we go? And I mean, obviously everyone can find you on Rise TV, but I don't know. I know you have your own YouTube show you're getting together. I don't
Yeah,
know if you've
I'm getting
announced
ready to
that yet.
start all of this. My YouTube show, the Ben Solo Show, which soon, next 2 weeks, I'm hoping to launch it, or maybe even next week. And then all my like kind of the hard hitting stuff and the really intense stuff is on Rise TV. Again, we're about ready to drop about a bunch of episodes of Edge of Wonder that Rob and I shot while he came to Florida, and then we filmed a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I'm hoping to do some really cool, exciting things as well. Maybe even with you being a part of that. So hopefully all
That would
this
be
will work
cool.
out. So we'll see what happens. So there's a lot of things in the works. We got some documentaries that we're going to put on. We're in the process of making our own documentary about the border right now. And yeah, overall bringing on more content creators and trying to make this bigger. So
Yeah, to anyone who hasn't checked out the platform yet, it's really incredible. And, I think it's just going to keep growing and keep growing. And I mean, all the shows on it right now are already so incredible. I know you guys are probably getting fictional content out on there soon too, and
yeah,
it's going to be
that's what I
really
want to
like a
do.
platform like like Netflix or something, but just a much more pro freedom and much
Pro
more
freedom.
awesome
Yeah, that's cool.
platform. I was joking before, I always feel that like ancient alien, I shouldn't throw them under the bus, but there's like certain shows that talk about ufology and things like that they just never seem to go deep enough.
Well, yeah, and
And like I feel like
yeah,
you guys definitely do that on your
well,
platform,
yeah,
so that's cool.
and that's coming from I don't want to mention what shows or anything, but some of the people that we know, both you and I know, that I've been on various different shows on TV, and I've said that, hey, I gave them like so much information we had on video, like, this craft like coming right over. And, I heard this from multiple different people. It wasn't just one. It was a lot of different people in the community that you and I know. And, at the end of the day, it's like they hardly used anything. And they were like, they even asked them, like, what is going on here? And they got vague answers.
Well, I feel like
whatever.
some of these shows, it's like if they're, it's actually incredible that they're even allowed to have the content that they have on
No,
TV.
it's true. And that's
with
why
the
I
way
don't
the
want to bash
media
these
is.
shows, because
So
these
I
shows
think
even
it's
help
more
me.
meant to be like a soft disclosure thing, like here,
Yeah.
like, because they don't want to freak people out. Obviously, there's like CNN watchers watching
Yeah, I mean,
these
that-
shows, so
that's the
like
thing,
it's like their way of like, hey, let's ease it. So like, mad
kind of
credit
like
or props to them,
vanilla-
because that's actually really cool. That
Yeah, and it's a good
I'm just
message
saying,
to
if you
reach
got
everybody.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
it
it's like if
really
you got that, you
does,
understand
yeah.
all that. If you want to go deeper, you go to Rise TV.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's why, I don't want to bash these shows at all, because like I mean, some of these shows are the most watched shows in the history of TV in the world, because they're translated in so many different languages. And it's really awesome actually to see these things. You can watch, like, there's so many shows right now on like Lost City of Atlantis, and it's so cool that you can just like turn on your TV and it's like, oh my gosh, like, here.
And isn't it interesting that these
these different
shows on TV are actually doing better than like any other show
Yeah,
that's
because
out there?
everyone's really
Obviously,
into
people
this-
are very eager to have this information. And that's really
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's really cool. But yeah, like you were saying, there's a certain level that it's like, well, we'll just keep it at this level here. And we like want to go, way up here. And it's like, we want to show this stuff up here, whatever we can do up here, this is where we want to get to. But, again, you kind of lose some people when you're up in this level, because it's like some of the things you may present may sound totally out there, but it's like, that's what, so
Well,
everyone
that's
has
okay.
their,
They're not ready for it yet, but they will be
that's
someday.
it, and some of these shows figured out a system that works, and it does work, and and that's why they're good at what they do. So pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ben, for being here tonight. I really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Apolla. This is great.
Yeah,
Good
we'll have to do
conversation.
this again sometime.
Yeah, I hope everyone liked it, and I hope I didn't offend too many people out there.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining on the show tonight. It's been a really great show. And if you want to help support me, make sure you go over to shamanspears.com. I have some really incredible, uniquely handcrafted energy channeling devices, which I have invented myself. I have a little bit of the Odyssey collection left, and they're all filled with copper coils, crystals, magnets, and sand I collect from sacred places around the world. They're all painted with crop circles that have been found around the world, and I charge them all onto an energetic collective. They're basically there for amplifying your energy, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, and I have a lot of amazing art up on here as well, and some t-shirts that help promote my show. So you can find all that at shamanspears.com, and I will be able to ship those out next day at this point, because I'll be in town for a little while. So definitely recommend that. And I have a new collection in the works, and that's going to be really cool. So I'm super excited for that. So stay tuned for that. And if anyone wants to join in on my shows, I always do a Tuesday show at 5 p.m. on KGRA, 5 p.m. Pacific, 2-hour show every Tuesday, and then a 1-hour show every day or every Wednesday on Aftermath. But we continue tonight's show, so I can talk about that now. All right. Thanks everyone for joining tonight, and until next time on Apollo's Odyssey. Over and out.